Y'all, let me tell you something that I just found out and I thought was interesting, man. And I'm so glad that Kandi turned it down. So, if you guys happen to follow Kandi online on YouTube, you will know that she puts out previews of her episodes of Speak On It, usually a day before. So, like, the episode will air tonight of Real Housewives of Atlanta, and then Speak On It will usually air after it. So there's usually a preview that comes out on maybe like Saturday. So in the preview, I thought that this was interesting. So she let us know that in the preview that she herself was actually invited to the OG dinner slash luncheon or whatever it is that we're gonna see in tonight's episode, where Sheree reunites with Kim Zolciak, with Lisa Wu, and with Deshawn Snow, who were all a part of season one of The Real Housewives of Atlanta. Now, Kandi reveals that she turned this down because it's like, why would she do that? You know what I'm saying? I mean, I think that she was supportive of it being a great moment for the four of them, but I think she knew. In my mind, I would listen. I'm so glad she didn't do it because when you think about the fan backlash that came with them Xing Nene out of that rewind promo that they did a couple of episodes ago, so much so that they ended up having to take it out of the episode to think what would the fans have had to say had Kandi been included in this because she herself says, I wasn't there season one, I came in on season two. And so while that does make Kandi literally at this point in time the longest running cast member on that show consecutively because she's never left since she's been there, it would have been, I think, mad awkward for the fans because they would have been like, oh, they shady. They trying to erase Nene and replace her with Kandi as if Kandi was there from the beginning. I can literally see the headlines right now. I can see the fan outrage right now. And I'm just like, Kandi, I think in this instance, you definitely dodged a bullet. It's already likely going to be a situation where people are like, well, I mean, Nene should be there. I mean, and true enough, yes, she should. But, I think in suing the network, I think that that sealed her fate in terms of her ever coming back, even as much as we may want her to. But I also think it's interesting to note that this scene comes after the fanfare of watching these four reunite on the nightcap with Carlos King. Now, I do think that this was probably like, oh, we should extend this. I think it's also a good way to test to see, well, potentially. Well, I also think it's a great. Number one. It's a great callback. I think it's a great callback to how the show started, and it's always great to catch up with the original, members of the show. And we've seen this happen a lot on other shows, particularly like the Real Housewives of Orange County. We've seen it happen on the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, where an original or some originals will come back into the show, to film scenes or to play around, as they call it in the industry, play, with the people. So I think it's cool to see. But I also wonder if there was extra interest after this episode of, the nightcap occurred. But also of note, at that point in time, Nene could not. Well, I don't think she couldn't, but I don't think it would have. It would have been awkward for her because Kim was included in her lawsuit. So it's kind of like, well, Kim was included as an example in her lawsuit, I should say. So it's interesting to see where things turn out and to note that Nene has also said she would go back to the show for the fans. And she's also said that she's reached out to Kim in the midst of her divorce, which is now not a divorce, which is saving 911 some time and resources. But anyway, I just thought I would let y'all know that because I was like, I like interesting tidbits and interesting facts and little things that I find like, oh, I didn't know that. That's interesting to note that they, wanted to include Kandi in this, and she turned it down. And again, like I said, rightfully so. But let me know in the chatterization what you guys feel about it. Should she have gone to the dinner or should she have stayed out of it? I think she did the right thing. Let's move on. K Michelle and Rasheeda. Listen, this was a beef for the ages back in the day when we watched Love and Hip Hop Atlanta in the beginning. Those early years, man, they were something. They will go down in history as some of the best reality television, in my opinion. Okay. K Michelle is reality TV gold. And I just think that her beef with Rasheeda was so rooted in a harsh reality. And if, in case you guys don't recall exactly what went on, you know, Rasheeda at the time, um, she told K Michelle told her what had happened between her and her ex Memphis, who at the time was then with Rashida's friend Toya, and they all rolled hard together, right? So in the scene, we saw K Michelle crying at the table, telling Rashida that, all the things that Memphis had did to her. You know what I'm saying? And it was like, because Rashida was cool with Toya, who was with Memphis at the time, she didn't really believe it. She acted as if, it was K's word against his. Well, you know, a fan, or I don't want to say a fan, I would say a viewer, asked, I wonder if K Michelle ever got an apology from Rashida after she found out the truth. And she tagged both of them. And so K Michelle says, F her. But here's why. Because if you did not follow that case, what I want to let you know is that K Michelle actually won that case. Yeah, she actually won that case. Let me see if I can add the file to the mix of slides so that you guys can see that she did indeed win. She was indeed correct. And he did admit to doing those vile things to her. I'm going to pull it up for you guys right now so you guys can see. And so then you have to ask yourself, a lot of people in the comments are like, they do owe her an apology, because the stuff that he did to her, like the stuff that was admitted, and this was back in 2015, the stuff that, he admitted, it's kind of crazy. As you guys can see here, he admits to doing those things to K Michelle and lost the lawsuit against her. He admits in a court deposition that he did those things to her, spent her money, and then threatened to do something to her son. Crazy, right? So all these years later, I do have to wonder. That is a good question. Do any of those people feel like they owe K Michelle an apology for what she revealed about the truth of her situation at that time? You guys let me know what you think in the comment section down below. I love sometimes when we find some interesting little tidbits that we can discuss and really dive into, especially when we get a callback like this. Put them on and make them